I smoothed my dress for the 100th time, fussing with the emerald pendant Mark had given me for our 10th anniversary. Tonight was supposed to be perfect, our 20th wedding anniversary dinner at Le Petit Chateau. But as I gazed at my reflection, all I could see was the worry lines etched around my eyes. "Mom, you look amazing." Marie burst into the room, her enthusiasm infectious. At 18, she was the spitting image of me at that age. "Dad's gonna flip when he sees you." I forced a smile. "Thanks, sweetie. Is everyone ready?" "Jessie's still hogging the bathroom, and the twins are arguing over shoes. You know, the usual chaos." I laughed, grateful for the distraction. "Well, go wrangle your sisters. We can't be late for our reservation." As Marie left, I took a deep breath. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Mark had been distant lately, working late hours and taking mysterious phone calls. But tonight was about us, about celebrating 2 decades of love and family. Downstairs, I found Mark pacing in the living room, phone pressed to his ear. "I told you not tonight," he hissed, then quickly hung up when he saw me. "Everything okay?" I asked, my stomach clenching. He plastered on a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Of course, just work stuff. You look stunning, Anna." Before I could respond, the girls thundered down the stairs, a whirlwind of perfume and excited chatter. Jessie, ever the fashionista at 16, twirled in her new dress. "How do I look, Dad?" Mark's smile softened as he looked at our daughters. "You all look beautiful. Now let's get going before we lose our table." The car ride was filled with the girls' animated conversation, but I couldn't focus. Mark's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and he barely said a word. At the restaurant, we were led to a secluded table draped in crisp white linen. As we settled in, I noticed a woman at the bar watching us intently. She was striking, with long dark hair and piercing green eyes. When she caught me looking, she quickly turned away. "Earth to Mom," Lily said, waving a menu in front of my face. "What are you getting?" I blinked, forcing myself to focus on my family. "Oh, I'm not sure yet. What looks good to you?" As the girls debated appetizers, I glanced at Mark. He was staring at his phone, brow furrowed. "Everything all right, honey?" I asked quietly. He jumped slightly. "Yeah, fine. Just a work email." The waiter arrived to take our order, and conversation flowed more easily as we reminisced about family vacations and shared jokes. For a moment, I felt the tension ease. This was how it should be, the 5 of us together, celebrating our life. But as I excused myself to use the restroom, I caught sight of the dark-haired woman again. This time she was standing near Mark, speaking to him in hushed tones. His face had gone pale. My heart pounding, I ducked into the hallway before they could see me. What was going on? Who was this woman, and why did she have such an effect on my husband? I leaned against the wall, trying to calm my racing thoughts. This was supposed to be a night of celebration, not suspicion and fear. But as I stood there, I couldn't shake the feeling that our carefully constructed life was about to shatter. Taking a deep breath, I smoothed my dress and stepped back into the dining room. I had to face whatever was coming head on. For my girls, for our family. As I approached the table, Mark's eyes met mine. In that moment, I saw guilt, fear, and something else I couldn't quite name. My throat tightened as I realized our anniversary dinner was about to become something very different from what I'd imagined. "Anna," Mark said, his voice strained, "we need to talk." I sat at Jane's kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a steaming mug of chamomile tea. The familiar scent of lavender and vanilla that always lingered in her home usually brought me comfort, but today it did little to soothe my frayed nerves. "Anna, honey, you need to breathe," Jane said, her weathered hand covering mine. "Tell me everything." I took a shaky breath and recounted the disastrous anniversary dinner. The mysterious woman, Mark's guilty expression, and the tense car ride home where he'd stammered through a partial confession about a mistake he'd made years ago. Jane's blue eyes, still sharp despite her 60-plus years, narrowed. "And you believe him? That it was just one mistake?" I shrugged helplessly. "I don't know what to believe anymore. He swears it's in the past, but something doesn't feel right. The girls are devastated. Marie overheard us arguing and told her sisters. Now they're all giving Mark the cold shoulder." "Good," Jane said firmly. "They should. Anna, listen to me. Men like Mark, they don't change. If he did it once, he'll do it again." "But 20 years, Jane. We built a life together. How could he throw that away?" Jane leaned forward, her expression softening. "Oh, sweetie, I know it hurts, but you can't just take his word for it. You need proof, one way or the other." I recoiled. "What, like hire a private investigator? That seems so Extreme. Extreme times call for extreme measures, Jane replied. You have 4 daughters to think about. You need to protect yourself and them. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Jesse. Dad's acting weird. Says he has to go out of town for work. Emergency meeting or something. I showed Jane the message, my stomach churning. See? This is what I mean. He's never had to travel for work before. Jane's lips pressed into a thin line. Anna, I'm going to be blunt. You need to start gathering evidence. Bank statements, phone records, anything you can get your hands on. And yes, consider hiring someone to follow him. The idea made me sick, but a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that she was right. I don't even know where to start, I admitted. I'll help you, Jane said, squeezing my hand. We'll figure this out together. Just then, my phone rang. It was Marie. Mom? Her voice was tight with panic. You need to come home. Now. What's wrong? I asked, already standing. It's Dad. He's packing a suitcase, saying he needs some time away to clear his head. Mom, I think he's leaving us. My world tilted on its axis. I'm on my way, I managed to say before hanging up. Jane was already grabbing her car keys. I'm driving, thus you're in no state. The ride home was a blur. My mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. How had my life unraveled so quickly? We pulled into the driveway just as Mark was loading a suitcase into his car. The girls stood on the porch, huddled together like frightened birds. Mark, I called out, my voice stronger than I felt. What the hell do you think you're doing? He turned, his face a mask of guilt and defiance. Anna, I can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can. I spat. But not here, not in front of the girls. Jane stepped forward, her presence solid and reassuring. Girls, why don't you come with me? Your parents need to talk. As Jane ushered my daughters inside, I faced Mark. 20 years of love and trust hung in the balance, but as I looked into his eyes, I saw a stranger. Start talking, I said, my voice low and dangerous, and this time, I want the whole truth. The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands as I sat at the kitchen table, staring at it like it might bite. 2 weeks had passed since Mark's botched attempt to leave, and the tension in our house was thick enough to cut with a knife. The girls walked on eggshells, and Mark was barely home anymore. I took a deep breath and opened the envelope. The private investigator, a recommendation from Jane, had promised results within days. As I spread the contents across the table, my heart sank. Photos, dozens of them, Mark with a striking blonde woman holding hands, kissing in a park, and then my breath caught. A boy, maybe 10 years old, with Mark's unmistakable eyes and smile. The front door slammed, making me jump. Marie stormed in, her face streaked with tears. Mom, she called, then stopped short when she saw the photos. What's all this? I hesitated, then decided honesty was the best policy. Sweetie, come sit down. There's something we need to talk about. Marie's eyes widened as I explained about the private investigator and showed her the photos. Her hands shook as she picked up a picture of the boy. Do I have a brother? She whispered. Before I could answer, Jessie burst through the door, her face flushed with excitement. Mom, you'll never guess what She froze, taking in the scene before her. What's going on? I gestured for her to join us, my heart heavy. Girls, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to find out like this. As I recounted the story again, Jessie's expression hardened. I knew it, she spat. I overheard Dad on the phone last week talking about some kid's soccer game. I thought maybe he was mentoring or something, but this is so much worse. Marie stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. We have to tell Lily and Laura. They deserve to know too. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of pride and sorrow at my daughter's strength. You're right, but let me talk to your father first. He needs to be the one to explain this to them. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Working late. Don't wait up. Anger surged through me. Girls, change of plans. Get your sisters. We're having a family meeting, with or without your father. An hour later, all 4 of my daughters sat around the kitchen table, their faces a mix of shock, anger, and betrayal as they looked at the evidence of their father's double life. So, what do we do now? Lily asked, her voice small. Laura, always the more outspoken of the twins, stood up. I say we go meet him. Our brother. She stumbled over the word. Absolutely not, I started, but Marie cut me off. Mom, we have a right to know. He's our family too, whether we like it or not. I looked at my girls, seeing the determination in their eyes. They were right, of course. But the thought of them reaching out to this other family, this secret part of Mark's life, made my stomach churn. Okay, I said finally. But we do this together, as a family. The girls nodded, a newfound solidarity between them. As they huddled together, whispering plans, I slipped away to make a phone call. "Jane?" I said when she picked up. "It's worse than we thought, much worse." As I filled her in, I watched my daughters through the kitchen doorway. They were huddled around Jesse's laptop, probably searching for information on their half-brother. Their faces were set with determination, and I realized with a start that this crisis had brought them closer together. "What are you going to do?" Jane asked. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the battle ahead. "I'm going to protect my girls, and then I'm going to make Mark pay for every lie he's ever told us." As I hung up, Marie called out, "Mom, we found him on social media. His name is Ethan." I walked back into the kitchen, my heart pounding. On the screen was a smiling boy with Mark's eyes, surrounded by a life we knew nothing about. A life that was about to collide with ours in ways I couldn't even begin to imagine. I paced the living room, my nerves frayed as I waited for the girls to return. They had insisted on meeting Ethan, their half-brother, despite my reservations. Now, as the afternoon sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The front door creaked open, and I whirled around. Marie entered first, her face unreadable. The others filed in behind her, a strange mix of emotions playing across their features. "Well?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Marie took a deep breath. "He's nice, Mom, really nice, and he had no idea about us either." Jessie nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "He thought he was an only child. Can you believe that? Dad's been lying to everyone." The twins, usually so bubbly and talkative, were uncharacteristically quiet. Laura spoke up first, her voice small. "He looks just like Dad, Mom. It's weird." I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly weak. "Tell me everything." As the girls recounted their meeting with Ethan, I felt a storm of emotions brewing inside me. Anger at Mark for his deception, heartbreak for my daughters, and this boy who had been kept in the dark, and a fierce protectiveness that threatened to overwhelm me. "What do we do now?" Lily asked, her eyes wide and uncertain. Before I could answer, the front door slammed open. Mark stormed in, his face twisted with rage. "What the hell were you thinking?" he shouted, glaring at the girls. "Ethan's mother called me in a panic. How dare you go behind my back like this?" I stood, placing myself between Mark and our daughters. "How dare we? How dare you, Mark? You've been lying to all of us for years." Mark's face paled, then flushed with anger. "This is none of your business. What happened in the past?" "Stop it," Marie shouted, stepping forward. "It is our business. He's our brother, whether you like it or not, and we have a right to know him." Mark turned to me, his eyes blazing. "This is your doing, isn't it? Turning my own daughters against me?" I felt something snap inside me. Years of trust, of love, of building a life together, all of it crumbled in an instant. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get out of this house right now." "You can't be serious," Mark sputtered. "This is my home, too." "Not anymore," I replied, surprised by the steel in my voice. "I want a divorce, Mark, and I'm going to fight for full custody of our girls." The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. Then, to my surprise, Jessie spoke up. "We want to live with Dad." I turned, shock coursing through me. "What?" Marie nodded, a determined look in her eyes. "We've talked about it, Mom. We want to get to know Ethan better, and, well, we think we can handle living with Dad." I felt as if the floor had dropped out from under me. "Girls, you can't be serious, after everything he's done." "We know," Laura interrupted, "but he's still our dad, and Ethan's our brother. We need to figure this out for ourselves." Mark looked triumphant, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. He hadn't expected this either. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "If that's what you want, I won't stop you, but know that I'm always here for you, no matter what." As the girls nodded, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension, I felt a strange calm settle over me. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. And I would do whatever it took to protect my daughters, even if it meant letting them go for now. I turned to Mark, my voice steady. "You'd better take good care of them, because if you don't, there will be hell to pay." As Mark ushered the girls out, I caught Marie's eye. She gave me a small, reassuring smile, and I knew then that this wasn't over. My daughters were stronger than I'd ever imagined, and together we would weather this storm. The house felt eerily quiet without the girls. I wandered from room to room, touching their belongings, trying to make sense of the whirlwind that had torn through our lives. It had been 3 days since they left with Mark, and the silence was deafening. My phone buzzed, startling me. It was Jane. Anna, honey, how are you holding up? I sank onto Marie's bed, clutching one of her stuffed animals. I don't know, Jane. It feels like I'm in a nightmare I can't wake up from. Have you heard from the girls? I sighed. Just a few texts. They say they're fine, but something feels off. I can't shake the feeling that they're up to something. Jane's voice turned serious. Anna, I hate to add to your worries, but I've heard some rumors about Mark's other woman. My grip tightened on the stuffed animal. What kind of rumors? Apparently she's got quite a reputation. This isn't her first rodeo with married men. The information hit me like a punch to the gut. Oh God, Jane. What have I done? I let my girls go live with her. Now, don't panic, Jane said firmly. We need to approach this carefully. Have you spoken to a lawyer yet? I shook my head, then remembered she couldn't see me. No, I've been in such a daze. I should do that, shouldn't I? Absolutely. And Anna? I think it's time you had a real conversation with Mark. No more dancing around the truth. As if on cue, I heard the front door open. Mark's voice called out, Anna? Are you here? I have to go, I whispered to Jane. He's here. I made my way downstairs, steeling myself for the confrontation. Mark stood in the living room, looking haggard and uncomfortable. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice cold. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. We need to talk, Anna. About the girls, about everything. I crossed my arms. Fine, talk. Mark took a deep breath. I know I've made a mess of things, but you have to believe me. I never meant for any of this to happen. Ethan, he was a mistake, but I couldn't abandon him. So instead you abandoned us? I spat. You lied to me for years, Mark, to our daughters. I know, and I'm sorry, but the girls, they're struggling. They're acting out, fighting with Sarah? Sarah? Is that her name? I interrupted, feeling a fresh wave of pain. Mark nodded, looking miserable. Anna, I think they're trying to sabotage things. They're making life hell for Sarah and Ethan. I felt a mix of pride and concern for my daughters. Can you blame them? You've turned their world upside down. I know, but... Mark was cut off by the sound of his phone ringing. He glanced at it, his face paling. It's Sarah. I have to take this. As he stepped away to answer, I felt a surge of determination. I may have let my girls go, but I wasn't about to abandon them to this mess. I pulled out my own phone and dialed the number of a lawyer Jane had recommended. Hello, this is Anna Thompson. I need to discuss filing for divorce and fighting for custody of my children. Mark's voice rose in the background, sounding panicked. I turned to see him gesturing wildly, his face a mask of shock and anger. Anna, he said, his voice shaking as he ended his call. The girls are gone. They've run away. In that moment, everything else fell away. My daughters were out there somewhere, scared and alone. I met Mark's eyes, seeing my own fear reflected back at me. We need to find them, I said, my voice steady despite the terror gripping my heart. And when we do, I'm bringing them home, for good. As Mark nodded, looking lost and defeated, I realized this was the turning point. No more passivity, no more letting others dictate my life. It was time to fight for my family, on my terms. Let's go, I said, grabbing my keys. And Mark, when this is over, we're going to have a long talk about the future. All of us. My heart raced as I paced the living room, waiting for news. It had been 3 days since the girls ran away, and every minute felt like an eternity. Mark and I had been searching nonstop, calling friends, checking social media, and even hiring a private investigator. The same one who had uncovered Mark's secret life was now tasked with finding our daughters. The doorbell rang, and I practically flew to answer it. It was Jane, her face etched with worry. Any news? She asked, stepping inside. I shook my head, fighting back tears. Nothing. It's like they vanished into thin air. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Marie. Mom, we're okay, don't worry. We'll be home soon. Relief flooded through me, quickly followed by frustration. They're okay, I told Jane, showing her the message. But they won't tell me where they are. Jane squeezed my hand. At least they're safe. Have you told Mark? The mention of his name sent a fresh wave of anger through me. He's out looking. I'll let him know. As if summoned by our conversation, Mark burst through the front door, his face a mix of hope and desperation. Any word? I showed him the text, watching as he sagged with relief. Thank God, he muttered. This doesn't change anything, I said, my voice hard. When they come home, we're still getting divorced. Mark's face fell. Anna, please, can't we work this out for the girls? Before I could respond, my phone rang, an unknown number. With shaking hands, I answered. Hello? Mrs. Thompson? A gruff voice asked. This is Detective Ramirez. We've found your daughters. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Where are they? Are they okay? They're safe, ma'am, but there's been a complication. They're at the hospital. My knees buckled, and Jane rushed to steady me. Hospital? What happened? It seems they got into an altercation with another woman, Sarah Lawson. Do you know her? I felt the blood drain from my face as I looked at Mark. His expression of shock mirrored my own. We'll be right there, I managed to say before hanging up. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Mark kept trying to speak, but I shut him down each time. My mind was racing with possibilities, each one worse than the last. At the hospital, we were met by a stern-faced detective. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, your daughters are fine, just some minor bruises, but Miss Lawson is pressing charges for assault. Assault? I gasped. That's ridiculous. They're just children. The detective's expression softened slightly. I understand this is a difficult situation, but from what we've gathered, your eldest daughter, Marie, confronted Miss Lawson about her relationship with your husband. Things escalated from there. I turned to Mark, fury building inside me. This is all your fault. Your lies, your betrayal, it's destroying our family. Mark looked devastated. Anna, I never meant for any of this to happen. I'll fix it, I swear. Just then a nurse approached. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, your daughters are asking for you. As we followed her down the sterile hallway, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I would do anything to protect my girls. We entered the room to find all 4 of my daughters huddled together on one bed. Their faces were tear-stained and bruised, but their eyes lit up when they saw me. Mom, Marie cried, reaching out for me. I rushed to embrace them, feeling their trembling bodies against mine. It's okay, I soothed. I'm here now, everything's going to be all right. As I held my girls, I caught sight of Mark hovering uncertainly in the doorway. His eyes met mine, pleading for forgiveness, for a chance to make things right. But as I looked at my daughters, I knew there was no going back. The life we had known was over. It was time to forge a new path, one that put my children first. Girls, I said softly, we're going home. All of us. And we're going to figure this out together. The relief on their faces was palpable. As we prepared to leave, I turned to Mark one last time. You can see them, but on my terms. This isn't over, Mark. Not by a long shot. The weeks following the hospital incident were a whirlwind of legal meetings, therapy sessions, and tense family dinners. I watched my girls struggle to adjust, their anger and hurt manifesting in ways I never expected. Marie, once my level-headed eldest, had become a powder keg of resentment. Jessie retreated into herself, while the twins vacillated between confusion and defiance. One particularly fraught evening, as I was clearing the dinner dishes, Marie stormed into the kitchen, her face flushed with anger. Mom, you won't believe what I found, she said, thrusting her phone at me. I wiped my hands and took the device, my stomach dropping as I read the screen. It was a social media post from Sarah, Mark's mistress, flaunting a new diamond bracelet. The caption read, "Thanks for the beautiful gift, babe. Can't wait for our getaway next week." He's still with her, Marie spat. After everything, he's still choosing her over us. I felt a surge of anger, quickly followed by a wave of exhaustion. Honey, your father's choices are his own. We can't. No, Marie interrupted. I'm not letting him get away with this. I've been doing some digging, Mom. Sarah's not who she says she is. My heart raced as Marie pulled up several articles on her phone. Sarah Lawson, it seemed, had a history of targeting wealthy married men. She'd been involved in multiple lawsuits and scandals over the years. We have to tell Dad, I said, my mind reeling. He needs to know what kind of person he's involved with. Marie's eyes glinted with a determination that both worried and impressed me. I have a better idea. The next day I found myself sitting in a cafe across from Sarah herself, my hands shaking as I nursed a lukewarm latte. Marie's plan was risky, but I had to admit it was clever. Thank you for meeting me, I said, forcing a smile. I think it's time we cleared the air. Sarah nodded, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her coffee cup. I agree, for the sake of the children, of course. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what came next. Actually, I wanted to talk about your past, Sarah. Your history with married men. Her face paled slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. I'm not sure what you mean. I think you do, I replied, sliding a folder across the table. Multiple lawsuits, allegations of extortion, it's quite a resume. Sarah's eyes darted around the cafe, her cool demeanor cracking. Where did you get this information? It doesn't matter, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. What matters is what you're going to do now. Just then, Mark walked into the cafe. his face a mask of confusion. "Sarah, what's going on?" I hadn't expected him to arrive so soon. Marie must have tipped him off earlier than planned. Sarah stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Mark, I can explain," she started, but I cut her off. "No more explanations, Sarah. No more lies." I turned to Mark, my voice breaking slightly. "She's been using you, Mark, just like she's used other men before." Mark's face cycled through a range of emotions: confusion, anger, betrayal. "Is this true?" he asked Sarah, his voice barely above a whisper. Before she could respond, the cafe door burst open again. This time, it was Ethan, Mark's son, with Sarah, looking panicked and out of breath. "Dad," he gasped, "Mom's been lying to both of us. I found her emails. She's been planning to leave the country with all your money." The cafe fell silent, the tension palpable. I watched as Mark's world crumbled around him, feeling a mix of vindication and unexpected pity. Sarah, realizing she was cornered, made a desperate lunge for her purse. But Marie, who had been watching from a nearby table, was quicker. She grabbed the bag, spilling its contents across the floor, including a one-way plane ticket and a stack of cash. As chaos erupted in the cafe, with Sarah shouting and Mark looking shell-shocked, I felt a strange calm settle over me. This was the moment everything changed. The truth was out, messy and painful as it was. I met Mark's eyes across the room, seeing the devastation and regret etched in his face. There was no going back now. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. My girls and I would face it together, stronger than ever. The courtroom was silent as the judge delivered her final verdict. I sat, back straight, hands clasped tightly in my lap as the words washed over me. Full custody, substantial alimony, child support until the girls reached adulthood. It was everything my lawyer had fought for, everything I knew my daughters deserved. I glanced at Mark, slumped in his seat across the aisle. The past few months had aged him dramatically. The financial strain of Sarah's betrayal, coupled with the legal battles, had left him a shell of his former self. As our eyes met, I saw a flicker of the man I'd once loved, remorseful, broken, but finally honest. Outside the courthouse, Mark approached us hesitantly. "Anna, girls, I know I have no right to ask, but is there any way we can—" "Dad, stop," Marie interrupted, her voice firm but not unkind. "We're not ready to forgive you, not yet, but maybe someday." The twins, Lily and Laura, nodded in agreement. Jessie, always the most sensitive, stepped forward and gave Mark a quick, awkward hug. "We'll call you, okay?" As Mark walked away, shoulders hunched, I felt a complex mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of pride in my daughter's strength and maturity. Jane was waiting for us at home, a celebratory dinner prepared. As we gathered around the table, I looked at the faces of my girls, tired but resilient. They had been through so much, yet here they were, still standing, still a family. "Before we eat," I said, raising my glass, "I want to say something. These past months have been the hardest of our lives. But look at us now. We're stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. I'm so proud of each of you, and I want you to know that no matter what happens, we'll always have each other." Tears glistened in the girls' eyes as we clinked glasses. Even Jane, usually so composed, dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. As we ate, the conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter, a sound I realized I hadn't heard in our home for far too long. Marie shared her college plans, Jessie talked about her art projects, and the twins regaled us with tales from their soccer team's latest victory. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, there was a soft knock at my door. I opened it to find all 4 girls standing there, pajama-clad and looking suddenly young and vulnerable. "Mom," Marie said, "can we sleep in here tonight? Like we used to when we were little." My heart swelled. "Of course, sweethearts. Come on in." As we settled into bed, a tangle of limbs and whispered conversations, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still wounds to heal, trust to rebuild. But in this moment, surrounded by the warmth and love of my daughters, I knew we would be okay. Just before drifting off to sleep, I heard Jessie whisper, "Mom?" "Yes, honey. Thank you for fighting for us, for not giving up." I hugged her close, feeling the others shift closer in response. "Always, my loves, always." In the quiet darkness of the room, I reflected on the journey we'd been through. The pain, the betrayal, the moments of doubt, they had all led us here. To this new beginning, this stronger version of our family. I thought of Mark, of the life we'd once shared, and felt a twinge of sadness for what was lost. But as I looked at my sleeping daughters, I knew that what we'd gained was far more precious. We had emerged from the storm not just survivors, but victors. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities for growth and healing. But for now, in this perfect moment of peace and togetherness, I allowed myself to simply be grateful. Grateful for the strength we'd found, the bonds we'd forged, and the love that had seen us through. As sleep finally claimed me, I smiled. Whatever the future held, I knew one thing for certain: we would face it together, stronger and more resilient than ever before.